I'm Apostle Ashley, and we are kicking off today letting you know why you want to share this broadcast. Today, Dr. Price is addressing the suicides among pastors and what is going on behind the scenes, the devils, all of it that's motivating that. And so you want to share right now. Tell your friends, tell your neighbor, tell your enemy, just tell the world that we will be addressing today about suicide among pastors. But first, we have a few announcements. There are some amazing things going on in our world here. If you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I want to let you know, or the surrounding areas, that on Saturday, not this coming up Saturday, but the following Saturday, the 21st, right here at Price University at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, because we are Central, we are having a community opioid workshop. And I want to tell you what that's going to address. The Paula Price Success Center. First of all, if you hadn't noticed, Dr. Price is just without end when it comes to spin-offs and branches and expansions. And so we have expanded Price University. We did this some time ago and have opened up the Paula Price Success Center, which is where we house all of our resources for the soul of success, soul healing and deliverance. It's in the Success Center. Through that branch, we present to you this. We're addressing opioid overdose, understanding the role of prevention and safe solutions for storage and disposal. In this workshop, you'll learn safe solutions for opioid storage and disposal, awareness of the risks of opioid use, and restore your life through education and advocacy. I know we have a guest speaker who is coming in from the community, a professional, to address these issues. I love having Price University, this Success Center, and these types of organizations, because we can reach into the community, reach into the world outside of the congregational element and context, and still touch lives, still heal souls, and do that outside of the church without compromising why the church exists. I think this is how a lot of organizations have gotten into a little bit of trouble, is they have these ideas, they have these contexts, and instead of branching out, they modify or change the church's purpose. And so we expand, and we build on, and we add to, without crushing and then demoting and apologizing for what we consider to be the church's shortfalls. We should touch the community. Yes, open up a community center. Don't shut down the church. Don't change the church for that. Have that thing separately. So we have Price University for education. We have the Soul of Success Center, the Paula Price Soul of Success Center for your soul to become successful in dealing with these very real subjects. Opioid addiction now is not a subject that is brushed under the rug and only talked about behind closed doors. The statistics are staggering. Opioid addiction in the street drug form and in the pills and everything else in between. And so we will be dealing with that. I love our success, and we will be hearing from Prophet Mama Cullen today, correct?
Yes, we will.
All
She
right.
can explain, elaborate on it a little more.
Excellent. Then she, not just her hot button, it is her profession. And why, again, I love Price University and what we do here, opportunities for your profession as a Christian, as a prophet and apostle, to still touch and reach. That from what we think is a religious concept, face to face, putting mailers in the mail. People want paper. Excuse me. So we are doing that next Saturday. Hold on here. Can't be coffee. Can't be coffee. All right. Also coming up, and this is a great connection for what we're talking about today. Our Near Summit is in November 20th through the 23rd. Rise of the Mighty Ones. This is where we are. This is what we face. This is us taking the lead. Rise of the Mighty Ones. It's time for the mighty in God, okay? Because the devil, he sent his mighty ones. But it's time for the mighty in God to rise collectively together to combat the darkness. June kicked it off with the prophets. And November with the apostles, we're going to go to the summit. That's why it is a near summit. New Era Apostleship Restitution Summit. We're going to take this to the high places where all of this began anyway. We saw it with Elijah and Mount Carmel, the showdown, high places. Everything is still in the high places. So you want to go to Dr. Price's website, www.drpaulaaprice.com, and look at the information under events for the summit this year. Excuse me. For the summit this year, because you want to be in Tulsa. You want to come back. If you were here in June, people are already registered from June. They're like, no, I have to come back, bringing bigger groups. You've seen the pictures. There are still more pictures from the event that will be circulating so you can see, even just see what we do here at our events. What makes them different? We're not just a conference. We don't just come and confer. We don't just talk and make ourselves feel better. We are challenged. We work through issues. We address and confront issues, and not just in a ranting format, because that's not what we do, but going to the historical backdrop, the spiritual backdrop. What can we do as Christians? What can we do as apostles and prophets to really turn this back and be Acts 26:18 and bring God's people back to Him? How can we do that? These are things that we usually resort to saying, I'm just going to take it to God in prayer. Well, I prayed. And this is a shock when you realize your prayers are not enough. If that was the case, Jesus would have started a prayer ministry. He would not have established apostleship and put the prophets with them and then established the ecclesia if all we needed was prayer. Prayer is a kickstart. It's a starting point. It's a resource. It's a weapon. It's an ongoing utility that you never put down. But it is not the totality of the plan at all. Jesus did go and pray, but then He had to do some things. And so we go and pray. We want to leave it to the Lord. And that's why we're in shock when we realize, wait, I'm going to have to do something? But what if the enemy pushes back on me? He's already pushing back on you. I mean, look at where we are in our world right now. Doing something, not doing something. He's doing what he always has done. So you want to be here, again, November 20th through the 23rd. This is going to be an action-packed event. Praise and worship from our Near Global Worship team. We have our dignitaries dinner on Wednesday night. We kick it off. This year, we are not having a commissioning ceremony. We don't have a class that's been commissioned this year. That'll be next year. However, we are recording a live praise and worship concert in the evening, on Friday evening at our event. And I tell you what, you can already sense the excitement. You can pick it up in the spiritual realm. That God is excited. He is pleased. And when He begins to move His forces in on what we're doing, that you know it is not just going to be a high time. It is going to be a life-altering, life-changing time. What I love about our events is even when our guest ministers and speakers come in, they're blessed. They get prayer, ministry, they get their own deliverance. Shocker, unexpected, because usually when you come and minister somewhere, you work, you leave, that's it. And if you're struggling, you're going to leave with the same struggles in which you came with. If you're pressing, you're going to leave under the same pressure that you came with, but not here. Dr. Price did an early bird special. She popped up out of nowhere one morning after early bird sunrise prayer, but before morning worship. She came down and laid everybody out who was in the room. Now, we make no promises that will happen again. Although this year, folks probably going to be in that room like an hour. Just in case. Just in case. I'm not going to be the virgin without my oil. Talking about, oh, no, I missed it. And that was it. People were flying in that room when they found out. And she was laying, when I tell you, people are still talking about Dr. Price. And, especially these tall gentlemen. Yeah. You don't understand. Dr. Price laid me out. I do understand. I was there laughing because you were in shock that you were going down. And she just, whoop, okay. But I tell you what, she was wrestling with those things. That's why I love our events. You just don't know. It was a first for me. She hadn't done it before. I got the call. She's coming down. We all going down. Be ready. Be ready in season and out. And I tell you what, years ago, the Lord told me, who I've called you to be, you're never out of season. So then you never have to guess if you have to be ready. You just need to always be ready. I said, well, you know what? That solved a lot of issues in my heart. And I'm always ready. And then Sunday's message, pedigree versus mixed breed Christianity. Woo! These are my sermon notes from Sunday. This audio is available online for you to purchase and download. Next week, you will have the option to start ordering CDs and we'll ship them to you. Because some of you have already reached out and said, well, how can I order a CD? So if you do want the CD, you will have that option to order the CD. Now, I know this might be obvious, but the CD won't be downloaded to you. It'll be sent in the mail. And we have to say that because sometimes people order tangible products, but still expect it somehow to show in their email. Okay, so that'll be in the snail mail to you, regular mail, FedEx or whatever we use, USPS, sending it to you. So you'll have the download option and then the hard CD option. We have our saints buying both. But right now, Sunday's sermon is available. The edited sermon is available for you to purchase. $10, download, add it to your library. Again, it is Pedigree versus Mixed Breed Christianity. Why do you want to purchase the CD? Hey, I'm already watching it online. Yeah, well, you know, they're not always going to be up online, first of all. And secondly, the quality, the audio quality, because it's the microphone right in line to the sound system, the audio quality, so all of our comments you'll hear less of. You'll actually hear more of the message and less of us falling out about the message. It's great. I love listening to it coming through my truck or in my house or wherever I am in the office editing. You want that CD quality. Also, you can save data. You know, streaming, if you're using your data, that's a lot of data in the streaming, and we're going live like all the time around here. So what did she talk about in that message? Some things she highlighted. We cannot make you decide to have a winning attitude. I'll tell you what, if you just pause and take inventory on how much of your language communicates losing and not winning, and I'm not just talking about blatant, I'm a loser, that's obvious, so we would all see that. But the sentiments and the attitudes about bailing out, not conforming, not rising above, not joining the team with what we're doing, all of those things speak to a losing attitude. And you don't even realize you're a loser. You don't even know it. Because in Christianity, so much of what we say is denying who you really are. I know is I'm blessed of the Lord and highly favored. Okay, that is a promise. But is that actually where you are right now in your life? You know, so many things that we have just been taught to say, rhetoric, repeating, that actually have had very little value in our lives. And she also said that we are addicted to whining about our flaws, falls, and inferiorities. I'm hurt. Look, I was there Sunday, I was hurt. It hurt me the second time editing. And now reading it again. Addicted to whining. How do you know if you're addicted to something? It's your go-to. That's why you have to be hooked on Jesus, because he needs to be your go-to. It's your go-to. It's your default setting. It's your default phrase. It's your default mentality. Anytime something pushes up against you, this wall of comes up. That's when you know you are addicted to that. You're addicted to your flaws. You're addicted to falling behind. You're addicted to your inferiorities. And then, this is when you really know you blame the system for making you feel that way. No. She also said we must uphold what God does in our lives and not go back to the garbage and recycle our sins. My God. That's something right there. I remember I leaned over, I said to Prophet in Training, Norma, oh, is that what I've been doing? Going back to the garbage and recycling my sins? Is that it? You know what? It explains a lot. It explains a lot about those things that you can't ever quite overcome. You can't quite get past. Well, I had 3 good months, and then, you know, what do we always say? 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. All of those things, and these cycles that just keep happening in my life. And when we say that, we have to ask why. And not just why, what am I doing to contribute to that cycle? Because things never just happen. It just happened. It just came out. I just don't even know. Because either the signs we ignore, we deny, or we trigger. And we set them off. She said the biggest test. Okay, and then she started talking about faith and Abraham. And I'm telling you what. All right. She said the bigger the test, the more faith is strengthened in you. Because we want to be super duper supernaturally strong without any kind of testing. There's only one way to know how much weight you can bench press. By pressing that weight on the bench. There's only one way to know if you can run a 25-mile marathon. By running a 25-mile marathon and seeing if you survive or not. Or how far you get. There is no way of knowing your maximum strength until you test it. And then test it more than once. See, I pushed that bar, but it was too heavy. See, I told you I couldn't do it. And that's what we do a lot. The first opposition, the first pushback. See, I told you it was too much. I told you I wasn't built for this. I told you I wasn't made for that. Well, keep pressing. That's why you have a gym membership. To go back, ideally. That's why January is full. July is a little thin. And then we come back in strong. The topic, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And the same thing is true about breaking through and having that faith increased in you. Man, when she was talking about that on Sunday, just shifting your attitude and shifting your mentality that, okay, I am in a trial right now, many times of our own making. We don't want to admit it. But when you can admit your contribution to your trial, you will get through it faster. Because you will contribute to coming out victorious on the other side. But as long as it's never you, if it's never you, then it's probably always you. It's never me. It's this person, and it's that person, and if they didn't do this. Now, meanwhile, God told you 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, to change this relationship, to augment this thing, to start this financial something in your life and in your world, and you had all the reasons for why you didn't want to do it. 3, 4, 5 years later, here we are, at the point where that should be mature, it should be flourishing, where you can just scoop up and keep moving, and there's nothing there. And then we're like, where was God? And as good as I've been to God, and since I started doing this thing for God, all this, that's my least favorite line. As soon as I started doing this thing for God, my whole life blew up. But what did God tell you before he told you this? I'm telling you, being an advisor, you learn to ask questions. And I'll tell you, if you really want to learn how to ask questions, go back and listen to these older Paula Price shows, where Dr. Price, when she was taking calls, I went to school every Thursday as an advisor on how to ask questions, because God is always the fall guy. Always. And if you're an apostle and if you're a prophet, then you have to be really good at finding the lies in people's stories, even if they don't know that's what they're doing. If the Lord is a fall guy, as soon as I did this for God, really? And what else? And what else? What else? Something else is going on. Because many times we put on forbearance obeying God. We put it on deferment. We talk about hope being deferred, but can we talk about deferred obedience? We put obedience on deferment, and we put it over here, and put it over here, and put it over here, and put it over here, until we say what? I just didn't have a choice anymore. I had to do it. Life just didn't give me a choice. And unfortunately, by the time you get there, it's a hard road to obey God versus doing things in the windows in which he told you. Just a side thought, when thinking about Dr. Price's sermon, and how you have got to own up to your contribution in your trials. You have to. Because the Lord cannot be the one to blame for everything that doesn't go your way. That just can't be it. He's the hero when it comes through. He's the villain when it doesn't. And we're just here along for the ride. Not so. I mean, come on. We sound like Adam in the garden. It's that woman you gave me. All of a sudden, all of God's perfect creation is now his fault. We're still there with the Lord. There is nothing new under the sun. Pre-fall sun, post-fall sun. Okay, and she said, when you run from God's faith, all you have is Satan's unbelief.
That's good.
Selah. When you run from God's faith, all you have is Satan's unbelief. We really don't think about that you're switching out. Did God really say? Yeah. I don't even, well, our memory is faulty. We'll say God said something, that's not exactly right. Is that exactly what he said? Or is that kind of what he said? Well, I got a word and God told me to do this. How exactly did he tell you to do that? Well, he said, no. How exactly did he say it? We remember even what God said to us in kind of sort of roundabout ways. Dr. Price is very fussy about how people say what she said. I have inherited that chip. Right, AIT? I have inherited that chip. Don't say what I said when those, first of all, those words didn't even come out of my mouth. Much less that sentiment. That might be how you felt about what I said. But don't say that's what I said. And that's what we do to God. We will say how we feel about what he said as though that is what he said. And then we act on our feelings and not the facts. And then we get in a little bit of trouble with him in that. Because, but Lord, you said, what does he say? I never said that. I did not say that. I said this. And you felt some kind of way about what I said. And then you did that, saying, I told you. All kinds of things. And we, Dr. Price has taught us as prophets and apostles, having the truth on the inward parts. You must walk in the spirit of the truth. And the biggest challenge is that emotional truth. Man, whoa, how you felt. How did you really feel? And we can't ride on our feelings as a gauge for what we do, but at the bedrock of your decision making are your feelings. So if you're not truthful about that, not truthful about what you relay, then everything else that you do has the potential to be contaminated. And when people meet you, how they have a relationship with you. Well, they're really sweet. I really love them. They have a good heart and everything. I'm just not really quite sure I stand with them. Well, they said everything was fine over here, but then they acted like nothing was fine later. All of those things, and especially as women, we are taught to just be emotionally messy all over the place. Just my emotions all over, and I can't help, and then you're on the ceiling and you're on the floor, and you're on the ceiling and you're on the floor, and you're all over the place, and that's our badge of femininity. Lord help us today. Deliver us, oh God, from that nonsense. But that's not the mind of Christ. And he didn't say men put on the mind of Christ and women be emotional. And he didn't say women put on the mind of Christ and men be men. Whatever men are attributed being. He didn't say that at all. That's a universal thing. And so she talked about faith is more than a mechanism, tips, and techniques. And we really have brought faith down to mechanisms, tips, and techniques. Do these 5 things to boost your faith. People have built entire ministries and organizations on simply faith. And faith, simple, not simple. Just that one lane right there. And over and over and over and over and over again, just how to make your faith a technical thing. How to make it a technique. How to make it a tip. I thought that's something. And she said that Abraham's faith comes with the born again package. You have to go back, even if you were in church on Sunday or watching on Sunday, and listen to this message without distractions. I was talking to somebody, I think it was yesterday, about the benefits of going back and listening. Oh no, it was you. It was you, Vanessa, wasn't it? Yeah. Listening to these messages uninterrupted. Because right now, so many people are at work. Sundays, especially if you're watching at home, you have this going on, that going on, popping up, jumping up, even in church. We distracted each other, falling out all over the place, all over the word. Okay, you're in it the first time. But going back with that uninterrupted, undisrupted time and taking the due diligence to be a student of the word, to be studious in our salvation, to work our salvation and work it in our souls, work it through our spirits. That's what it really takes to be a good Christian. How many times have we heard Dr. Price say recently, I didn't get saved to be bad at it. And we don't think that we're bad Christians, bad at being saved, bad at being Christians, bad at being redeemed. Because we've been taught, you just say the prayer. You just say the prayer, and that's all it takes. And I say this in my classes, I said this on my show. That's like saying I took a shower this month. I'm good. One shower. No, you're good to be by yourself in a minute. No, it's not just once. Because why? You keep getting dirty, skin keeps dying and flaking, we are deteriorating, and all that has to be washed off constantly. And so with the word, we have to do that too. Always be washing our souls. Always be scrubbing down. A little exfoliation. I don't know. Let's exfoliate the soul a little bit. Get all these flaky, sinful things off. Let's bring up that pretty skin, the pretty soul that's somewhere in there that only God can redeem. We need to exfoliate the soul.
Detox.
Yeah, that's what you want.
You want me to turn on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. Now what? Next
We
door,
want to
talk?
hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, and we need to scrub it up there.
Oh, yes,
You
go
know.
all the way in.
Yeah, you know. Well, it's interesting that you say that. Remember, last Sunday was our Soul Sunday.
Woo! Yes.
And we did not make it public because it's part of a program, a biblical psychology program. And so these people who do press their way to be in the audience, because see, a lot of saints want God to fix things, but they want God to fix things on their terms.
Yeah.
And sometimes the very reason you can't come to sessions like that is the reason you're bound. It's pride. At the heart of everything,
Yeah.
according to God
Yeah.
and according to His Word, is pride. Well, I know God for myself. What can she tell me that I don't already know? Well, I'm sorry because I just go to God and I just stand on the Word. I just believe the Word. Let me tell you something. The soul is a complex entity.
Yes, it is.
It is so complex that one human soul, if it were dissected, if it were scattered, would literally take up miles and miles and miles of space for the bits, parts. Those bites, soul bites are very minuscule, but every one of them is like a cell.
So you know about B-Y.
B-Y-T-E-S. Every soul bite is like a cell. That is why the soul keeps being affected by what happens to it. But see, you got to come to Let's Talk Soul Sundays, because this is not the only time you'll get it free. So then when you miss it,
That's it.
you pay.
Yeah.
You enroll in the school, you become a student. It's really great. So however way you do it, but we were talking about soul. That's why I thought our subject today was so interesting. David said he restores my soul. And God says that your soul is his. And he said the soul that sins, it shall die. Ezekiel, 3 times in Ezekiel. And Ezekiel is not in Israel.
No.
Ezekiel is in Babylon, Persia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the Medo-Persia. So we're not, this conversation that God is talking about, this declaration, behold, all souls of mine are mine. And the soul that sins, it will die.
My God.
Oh, my. That, I mean, if we were sitting together at a round table or a think tank, we would explore the implications of that, and they would be immense.
Yeah, they would.
Because the Bible says righteousness tends to life. And God's righteousness is very high. It descends from above, and no human can rise up to get it. You have to wait for it to come down and fall on you. Is that powerful?
That is powerful.
The soul that sinneth, it shall die. I want you to think about that. You think about that while you're feeling sorry for all of these people who decided to take God's responsibility into their own hands. Who decided to shipwreck their destiny and devastate all of the people they left behind with questions that can never be answered. See, the church has been programmed to have what I call pseudo-compassion. We have compassion on falsehood. We have compassion on falsity. We have compassion on failure. And never on faith. So, just in case you didn't know, this is the Jesus Christ and Paula Price Show. Welcome to the Jesus and Paula Show. I just love this man, you know, and those of you who follow me on Facebook, you know, like people can't tell you I did certain things because you're like, no, that woman is too yoked up, choked up, hooked up with the Lord Jesus Christ. And if I try, he cuts up. You know, you don't give Jesus something and then decide that he can't have it anymore. He said it is a sin to vow something to God and then take it back and then regret it. Some of you all took back your kids. Some of you all took back your faith. Some of you all took back your money. Some of you even went so far as to take back gifts that you've given the church. And nobody told you that. And if they did, you wouldn't believe it because let me tell you, any spirit they can talk you into reneging on your word to God owns you, has control of you. And God has very strong feelings about that. Part of why people keep thinking that God doesn't have any reaction is because God has to weigh his options and weigh his ultimate purpose. So when God deals with your ulteriors, he has to do so from his ultimate purpose, which means if he put you on the planet to meet a certain person, to start a certain thing, etc., if he does that, then he's going to set your sin aside. He's going to archive it. That's what we talked about last week. You should listen to last week's broadcast. He's going to archive that incident until you are no longer vital to what he wants to get done, which is why he can give you all of these great blessings and all of these accoutrements, etc., when you're young. And then when you get old, he doesn't care about whether or not you're in a nursing home. I said, and many people, but I served God well. No, you didn't. You emptied out what God put in you, but you did not serve God. Wow. You served yourself. But God, everything about God is encoded with a harvest. Everything of God is encoded with a harvest. Go back to these soul bites, B-Y-T-E-S. They're all cellular. They all have a world in them that's working itself out and uniting itself with the other bites. So when you think about the soul, one of the things that God has blessed me with, and I'm literally stunned, to be honest. I think my people are stunned too. But I am literally stunned at how deep a revelation and how specific, you know, how nuanced the revelation of the human soul has been granted to me. And it's a gift. And God talked about it, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, 5-6 years ago. And he told me, he said, you don't know men's soul. He said, I give you the gift of knowing the human soul and comprehending the human psyche. Well, you know, when you're in prayer, you come out and pray, yay, God, hallelujah, amen. And then all of a sudden, the Holy Ghost shifts your capacities, changes your own psyche, and he lifts it into his own. He said, my files, I'm telling you this for a reason, my files on the human soul have now become your files. And ask my people, they would just assume me not have lunch with them than for me to be sitting in front of them talking about their soul. They'd be like, Dr. Price, we love you dearly, however, could you just send it to us in a text, a brief? We don't want to put you out. And it's more than knowledge, and it's more than anointing. It has become, literally, it has become a profound, deep, penetrating faculty, which is what you all heard on Blog Talk when I was taking calls. And it's like, all of a sudden, what God knows, what God sees, what he understands about the human makeup, about a soul in distress, a soul in, God, what God knows, he has now given me access to know. And I think, and not just know it, I write it. Do I not write it?
Yes.
They have pages and pages and pages of text because it has to get out there, because God has to replicate this. You know, I don't think of this as an exclusive anointing, an exclusive capacity. I don't. I think of it as myself being the groundbreaker to shift the modern teachings on the soul to life instead of death. I gotta hit something. Because I just, oh shit, and oh shit. You know?
Yes, Jesus.
Because that's our problem. That is our problem. And so in a few minutes, I'm going to get into my whole subject because I want to talk about this young pastor advocating for mental health, died by suicide. All right? I want to talk about that. And see, I am an apostle. And any apostle who buys into this foolish rhetoric is apostle of darkness and not light. Because there's nowhere in the world you can say in him was life, and that life was the light of men. Then you can't say that. Nowhere can you say that Jesus is the light of the world and the life of all flesh. You cannot say that in him is light and there's no darkness at all and believe in suicide. You can't have it both ways, people. You cannot say that Jesus Christ, according to Paul's words to Timothy, brought life and immortality to light. That's a powerful statement. That's powerful. But if you sow to the flesh mental health, you will of the flesh reap corruption. Because the mental is the flesh. So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about it in ways that I pray those who are involved in this industry for the Lord Jesus Christ. Because, see, there are messengers of death and there are messengers of life. Oh, I wish I could.
Jesus.
Ooh, Jesus. See, because the Bible says, he who is often rebuked and hardens his heart, cruel angels will be sent unto them. God says when we move into rebellion, messengers of death. Anybody understand this? See, so you have to look at this thing not as that God has totally indulged people according to the failure of the flesh. Because that's what this is. He can't do that. He can't. And he's shown his power over it. There's no way in the world for us to, as Christian ministers and Christian leaders, to consider suicide as a God-approved method of escaping our sorrow in this world. See, because God doesn't run on the heart, on the mind. He runs on the heart. The Bible says wisdom enters your heart and then flows to your mouth. So what we have to look at is what God is dealing with. Because man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. See, God's a heart man. Oh, somebody's going to catch this. He's not a head man. Because he knows that if he does the heart right, the head will follow. Because out of the abundance of your heart come murders and thefts and crimes and all those things. Out of the abundance of your heart comes your evil thoughts. And we think evil means just strictly critical. Not that it means damned and doomed. Did you all bring coffee? Because y'all going to need some coffee today. Y'all bring a cup of something?
Some tea.
I got some tea. You got your water. I got my cup of something here. And so what I'm waiting to do, because I think that this particular broadcast should be taped. If not, I'll just have to do it again. But what I'm waiting to do is to get our camera, which we usually don't use on Thursdays, but to get our camera so that this is recorded for class. Because we do have this biblical psychology program where I handle all of that. I was going to say, is there a 3D book around? I used to have one in here, Ah, hey, Secrets in the Attic has 3D.
Yeah.
Thank God for Secrets in the Attic. Let me tell you, I just finished a class that will be for leadership, and it's based on an article I wrote called "Now That You Are a Leader." And one of the things that I feel I have discovered, I won't even say feel, I have documented proof, that people lack is soul health. And the reason we lack soul health, because we feel like our soul has no part in the matter until it leaves our body and enters God's world. And when it does, it's God's responsibility. God will fix my soul when he gets there, when I get there, when I get to heaven, when I get to, out of this body. But I want you to understand that your soul is the part of you that came to the planet in the breath of the Almighty, through the breath of the Almighty. God breathed your soul into your clay corpse on earth. Now that's a big statement, which means we can talk about that, we can go there. So, but God breathed your soul into your body on earth. Not in heaven. In heaven, it was literally fused with your spirit. On earth, it became fused with your body. And your soul is what gave your body life and animation. Oh, by the way, did you tell people that I'm on right now and that they don't want to miss this? You don't want to miss this. This is really amazing. And it's going to be information that you need, because a lot of you all are counselors and therapists and trainers and coaches and mentors. And I tend to draw those kinds of people. Many of you all are thought leaders, and not only thought leaders, you're thought shapers. More than a few of you are policy makers. And so this information is going to help you who are representing Jesus Christ, the God of life, and not the billions of deities of death that have flooded our country from other countries. I just thought that was nice. Did you all think that was nice? I thought that was nice. And so later on, we're going to have Prophet Mar. Most of you all know her from Mental Health Mondays. So I figured if the guy is a man who is supposed to be advocating mental health, dies by suicide, I need to know where the breakdown is. Because there's obviously a breakdown, and a breakdown that the industry either tolerated, overlooked, or did not recognize. Because this is a blow to me, to mental health, the mental health industry. I mean, I consider it a real black eye. That you have this guy of this, the article, mega church. Mega church. Anybody hear mega? Mega means big and a lot.
That's true.
And then the church doesn't know. Oh, come on, somebody. Are you almost there? Because you don't get excited now. You're moving too slow. Oh, man. I'm trying my best. But anyway, while we're doing this, I need somebody to step it up. When I'm broadcasting, I need swiftness. Hallelujah. Swiftness. So, but I want to talk to you, in addition to that, I would like to invite those of you who are new to leadership, who are responsible for bringing people into leadership. I'd love to invite you into my private leadership class. It is private. It's by application only. You must be accepted because, well, we need you to be real leaders or really on course for leadership. So I'd like to invite you to enroll in my class and to be part of it. It's not a large class. I'm not looking for hundreds, because if that's the case, I'm going to have to schedule them again and again and again. But I would like to invite you to be a part of my class where I Ali. Oh, okay. Oh, man. I did that back. Oh, back. Yeah, okay. Where I developed an amazing workbook on Now That You Are a Leader. So I'm going to read some of the titles and subjects so you'll understand the discussions. And so the first one will be Ministry's New Day. And it talks about how ministry of yesterday, yesteryear is no more. And then it goes to how we got here and God's response to where his body and his kingdom is. We're talking about the wisdom that those who appoint leaders to positions. This is called leadership according to wisdom. And then how God proves and prunes leaders. Like this kid wasn't pruned or proven, clearly. And then there is a section called the self-celebratory leader versus the self-deprecating leader. And then we go on about initial reactions to your leadership, how long they last, who the real culprits are, how to strategize and how to counteract people's displeasure over your rise. Big deal. And then leadership is so much more than paperwork and techniques. She talked momentarily before coming on about leadership not being about techniques. Everything that we teach in the church is about techniques. It's either the body or the spirit. It's never the soul. Never the soul. It's either the body or the spirit. And then there are various activities, theory to practice, knowledge transference, functioning in your new position, reasons leadership promotion changes must be, working on your spiritual wisdom and intelligence, various learn to lead exercises, okay? And then there are a couple of things in here I think you would love. I called it the human capital C-suite, the letter C, human capital C-suite. And then wisdom pack. There's a wisdom pack that every leader has. Can we tap into it? Do you know it exists? And then here's something you'll love. Be different to become exceptional. Because if you're like everybody else, you don't stand out. If you don't stand out, people have no reason to think that you have any more to offer to the world than they do.
That's good.
And then I have a section in here called the currency of positivity. And then earning trust and sustaining it. And then it closes with personal leader self-regulation advice. And then all about adaptive changes and how adaptive changes are different from shift changes. Because transitional change and adaptive change are not the same. I think that by hearing this, you've already got a taste of what this work does. And I just want to just share a little bit with you so that you understand that, because you know, if I'm going to teach a class, it's not going to be Monday. If I'm going to teach, then we're going to learn and you're going to read. So this is an immersive training process that melds readers' interaction with its discussions and instruction. It does so by tasking them with educative regimens that call upon them to use what they learn promptly. Material is segmented for trainees to engage with pivotal portions of the content. Moving on, the final effect is synthesized enhancement of new leaders' ability that aid their orientation and persuades them of the unmitigatable changes they must make to succeed. You have got to change. And we talked about that when I introduced this. Instructors learn how important it is to measure performance and the attributes that provide benchmarks for qualitative service. You know, in the church, we don't have benchmarks. We don't like measurements because we call them judgment. When you the judge mean? And we don't even think about quality. Okay, with this is the broad range of learner comprehensions that fill in gaps that may trip new leaders up down the line. Also, there are the indications that lay the groundwork for creating accessible criteria to gauge learner and trainee subject matter intake and output. Particularly effective for seminars, workshops, modules, and similar knowledge cultivation and retention venues. Now that you are a leader, is adaptable. It can be modified to fit any other setting where new leaders must be orientated to their new world. The intelligent approach articulates apparent and nuanced areas and issues that cannot be easily taught or stressed during the formal readiness process. Did that speak to you all? And so, overview. In the way of a summary, this tutorial's topic speaks to those just entering the world of leadership, regardless of organization or sphere. It contradicts the notion that leadership is little more than a variation of the leader's everyday life by introducing the entrant leader to the realities that await them as newcomers to the world of leadership. Most notably is the reality that leadership imposes changes that alter the way the new leader lives, works, relates, and interacts with the old and the new world. The leadership scape is addressed in detail, pointing out the differences that impose change. Now, there is more for you to get, but I just wanted you to understand this is a practical class that engages your entire being, requires you to absorb by more than your memory. So I wanted to say that, or remove it. Because I said that before. All right. So I'm going to go on because I don't like this. Now, in introducing our subject, we have this very brief book that Prophet Mark loves called 3D Soul Restoration. And it's taking a soul from distress to success. People fail, people get sick, people die because of soul distress. Now, it might be interesting for you to think of this as just another way of saying psychological distress, but that's not what this is. Psychology treats the soul very differently than its maker. So you need to know that. Remember, the soul that sinneth, it should die. But David also says the maker of the soul is only when it can restore it. He said, but he restores my soul. Now this is from a man who was literally brutalized. He was betrayed. He was cheated. He was defrauded. He was hunted. He was literally marked for death. Everything but assassination happened, and that's only because the assassinators couldn't find him. This is a man who had a wife that couldn't stand him. Literally, couldn't stand him. He was on the run all over the place. He did not get credit for what he did. He could not get credit for what he did because he's the king's son-in-law. You know, many people don't realize David was Saul's son-in-law. We kind of don't think about that. We think about David was the kid in the castle. But he was Saul's son-in-law. He was promised all sorts of rewards for his efforts and got none of them. And while he was on the run, he had to reinvent himself from a peasant son-in-law into a future king. And what did he do? He found purpose and value in his struggle. He was a man of integrity. He had the raw equipment and the raw talent that God needed him to have to become his future king. And God put him through brutal training and vetting and proving. It was brutal. He had to leave his country because he was exiled and pretend that he was an assassinator for another country. He had to live by his wits all the time. And while he's doing this, he's amassing an army of 600 soldiers and their families. So now he's got the added weight of being able to feed them and take care of them. So when you want to talk about stress, I need you to read Brother David. Because we haven't had that kind of stress. We cannot say that we don't understand it. In the middle of it all, the man is battling. I mean, he's warring again and again and again. He's warring. I mean, literally. And not like us up in the air shooting down some missiles. No. He's on the ground in combat. He had wounds on top of wounds on top of wounds. How do I know this? Because he says in one song, but my swords are just incurable. He ate at night after warring all day. Physical combat, mental combat, psychological warfare. Because the sitting king was determined that he would not be his replacement. You understood that? And so when you think about how hard it is, I've said to my people, and I teach them all the time, you can measure your destiny by the degree of agony that God puts in your training. Your destiny is in direct correlation with your divine purpose and ultimate entry into that purpose. Is this speaking to you all? It's important. You know what I'm saying? It's very important that you recognize it. So if you are always battling money, you need to know that God's going to use you to handle great sums of wealth. Because God tries you in the area, he will use you.
That's good.
So if you're battling friendships, God's going to use you in the area of relationships. If every time you turn around, you are facing calamity after calamity, and no matter how well you do, it just keeps happening, I want you to understand that you're marked to be a miracle worker. Because every time you conquer what the enemy throws at you, you not only defeat him, you step up to the next level. And so you, by elimination of your adversaries, are ascending to your predestined place. Oh, they didn't get that. Let's just get something. I got a spell. Yeah, I got stuff. See, God told me that. He said, so do you think I'm just being cruel? I said, well, God, actually, I don't know. He said, I am preparing you for every adversary
Yes.
that you will have to face off in your seat when I put you there. And I had to live that. I'm telling you that we need to change our narrative and change our explanations to people who are in trial. See, that faith thing was wonderful. We needed faith, but it went so far as to disqualify your perseverance, and to disqualify your resilience, and to disqualify your endurance, and to disqualify your stamina, and to disqualify your patience, and to disqualify your obedience, and any doctrine that disqualify the natural and inherent essential virtues of our earthly existence is not of God, or it went off course. You lost your children, and they told you it was because you lacked faith, not because God had a better reason. And I can tell you those reasons, but this broadcast does not fulfill. I'm just saying. I want you to hear me. So if you are having a difficult time, if you battle sickness, that means you're going to be a healer. But it has to start at home. Because if you don't persuade yourself and persuade those in your world, you will never have access to the masses. Because your strength grows, your spiritual strength grows the same way physical strength does. Repetition, drilling, grilling, exercise, repetition. And repetition. People watch me today. As a matter of fact, PIT Norma is my 35 years. I've become a master. And I gave myself to it. See, most of you all escape, you evade, you dodge, you drop out, you fall out, you drop out. And you never become the master. Because God is the God of masters. He's the master maker. He wants to win. And if he has ordained for you to take over any aspect, see, we don't teach you powers any longer. We don't teach you strength. That's what we're going to talk about in a moment. We teach you how to surrender to your circumstances. Submit And there are times you need to do both, but not passively. I never submitted to a trial passively. I always knew that sorrow would endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I knew I had a morning coming after this dark night. And I did not lay and languish in the darkness of night. I worked. They'll tell you I worked. I wrote, I built, I planned, I strategized, created, invented, you name it, because I refused to think that what I had to live through defined what I was on the planet to do. You couldn't convince me.
That's good.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. In 1997, I had a radical hysterectomy, and it was bad. I couldn't heal, whatever. And you know what I did while I was recuperating? I sat up and wrote a book. And I did it to dump that pain and dump the soul pain that came from it. Because I knew this was temporary, but everything I was going to do for Christ was going to be eternal. And I wasn't, even now, they'll tell you, I'm like, I ain't letting no devil have this. No. And I walk through my, no. Because I'm the chosen one. And if I'm chosen, then I can't let you win. I'm chosen. You understand? I like being chosen. There are people that say, yeah, but I didn't ask for this. I may not have asked for it, but I adapted to it, and now I love it. I'm chosen. I am the one for what I'm called to do. No one else. I'm it. And it's up to me to guard it. It's up to me to keep it. It's up to me to perfect it. I am the chosen one. I don't let devils think their choices are my options. I don't let it. I won't. I don't care if I can have a bad day. It's only a day. And it may not be the whole day. And in the midst of it, I'm still doing my job. I'm still praying, taking calls. I'm still ministering. I'm praying for folk, interceding. I'm sitting there talking about, hey, gee. But you know what? I know that sometimes it's a warfare. And sometimes it's a pronouncement. God is sending something great down the way. The devil wants me to lapse into unbelief and miss it. See, I see positivity in my trials and tribulations, and that's what we have got to start teaching the body of Christ, that this has a purpose and a purpose for your future. God does not have lame, indiscriminate, foolish trials. That's why they're trials. So you always trialing your future. You're trialing your destiny. Oh, somebody gonna hear this today. So yeah, because we all come to God soul sick. Don't you like that? Because every soul is sick. We're born sick. Because the souls are born to earth to fall into devils. Remember Eve. Every one of our souls. The problem is that we've allowed egomaniacal folks to tell us that is not true. Instead of facing the truth and doing what you do with everything else, learning how to work it out, how to purge your soul of its flaws and faults and failures, its weaknesses and its errors. The Bible says who can know their errors and faults? God has to reveal them. But instead, we have been trained and pacified into placating to our weaknesses and then praising ourselves for placating to our weaknesses. When I watched, read an article online where it said that now, I don't know, I think it's California, I might be wrong, but now the children can wake up in the morning and say, I don't feel like it, I feel my soul, I feel trouble, I'm emotionally off, and they can stay home. I thought, somebody at the top needs to sit down and wonder what devil is taking out our future. Because no matter where you go, everything is about the weakness of the soul, the weakness of the emotions, the incapacitation of our emotional selves. And I'm not doing it. I'm going to tell you right now, I am so not doing it. Because I'm going to tell you, the only person, that's a propaganda, and it's a propaganda machine that we have bought into psychologically. And as far as I'm concerned, the whole field has bought into the propaganda machine to literally dissimulate the United States and its populations. And I'm not doing it, because when God comes on the scene, strength comes. All right? So anyway, this is the book that I came up with, and I have a section in here that I think that, I hope it's in here, because you know what, Mark probably knows it inside and out. Oh, got it. Look at that, it was in the table, contents and everything. I just want to read this one section. It's on page 47 if you have it, and it's called The Compulsory Plight of the Sorrowful Soul. The mysterious villain in most addiction is hope deferred. A lengthy discussion unmasking this culprit comes later in your deliverance process. However, at the outset, you should know addictions mask sorrowful emotions that treat soul damage with compulsory acts or behaviors. When the cause of the pain is not delayed hope or constant disappointments, but rather the result of a trauma or abuse that seeks to be relieved, deferred hope may be strictly tied to the need to relieve the soul's ache that comes from, to cease reliving the ordeal that caused it. If your memories change, or if your memories are quarantined, you have a hard time being addicted. Hallelujah. Notice for the use of the word, I guess I better go on and act like I shit, bro. How about this? Notice the use of the word relieved instead of healed. This alteration is because it's deliberate to differentiate the temporariness of addiction from the permanence of deliverance. Remember this distinction as you go through the 3D process. You should know emphatically that the two are entirely different, with the word permanence being the determining factor. When soul damage is caused by an assault, abuse, or trauma, the answer to its anguish is some kind of obsession. A fixation or fascination is born out of a despair initiated by some or many disappointments. It is true that everyone has some sort of obsession that helps them temper soul pain and manage life's upsets. It is when the obsession consumes the thoughts and drives the impulses to oppose your well-being and fruitfulness in life that they take on an unhealthy effect. In this case, they inhibit your free will's ability to function as required and instead compel you to focus on things detrimental to your personal security or stability. As far as God is concerned, they go right to the heart's archives, that place where sorrowful memories related to unsettling issues and incidents are cataloged and submerged. Some of y'all may not have this book, but I'm sure that Prophet Maud will talk about it. So moving on to why we're here today, or what I want to cover today. I've already introduced us, so we're good about that. But I want you to see, this is the world's answer and explanation. This is an article by Lady Gaga and Tedros Adhanom. I'll get it, maybe they'll write and tell me. But this is their answer, and then we'll get to this article. Suicide is the most extreme and visible symptom of the larger mental health emergency we are so far failing to adequately address. Stigma, fear, and lack of understanding compound the suffering of those affected and prevent the bold action that is so desperately needed and so long overdue. Now, I don't have the article, so I can't tell you what the bold action is. I'm sure it'll show up somewhere. But that's the word. And see, that's based on the soul being exclusively in the mind, which is why they consider soul sickness and mental health hand in glove. Not that the mind is a part of the soul. We talk about that in our Soul Sunday classes. The whole entirety of the soul contains every immaterial version of the body's makeup organ. The body is the soul sheath. And the soul, as an interface, plugs into its organic versions so that the body operates. That's what happened when God breathed into man. So that the body gets its information from the soul, which is why, I know I'm right, because see, your body goes to the dust. So clearly, there's a big difference between mental health in the flesh and what the heart is sending to the soul as mind. Big difference. So your mind is pulling from your heart, and your brain is pulling from your mind. So your brain can function healthily, but if its influxes and secretions are off, it's going to tell your body to do things that are destructive to you, counterproductive to your life. You need to know that. See, so this what they're talking about, that's some fallen devils. They don't know, and they don't really want to fix it. Because devils, fallen angels don't want you healed. Because if you're healed, they're evicted. So there's always an ulterior motive, and there's always a major player that is providing incentive for mental health disorder. Now, are you saying to me, Dr. Price, that it's not real? I am not. It is real. It is very real. But you understand, invisible viruses take out human bodies. And they're real. Now, you can't see them. And sometimes they can't even find them under a microscope, and yet they're dying. When we talk about flu, we're talking about breath. These things are breathing on us. So there is that. There are, and the Bible says that we were born, Psalm 58:3, we were born as liars and led astray. Now think about a baby lying? No. But the faculties that are going to grow up into adulthood will not be truth. So when you think about it, this is it. This is what God is doing. And this is what we teach and what we've been working through. See, you've got to break that belief that the mind and the brain are literally flip sides of each other. They're not. That's why you can wipe out the brain and people can still feel. Now, they can't tell you what they feel. They can't let you know what they think, but because that faculty is gone, that organ is gone, but they can still feel. Now, why am I saying that? Well, let's go to our young man's article. The article is LA Times 9/12/19. On Monday afternoon, Jared Wilson, a pastor at Riverside Megachurch and the founder of a mental health advocacy group, took to Twitter. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure suicidal thoughts, Wilson wrote. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure depression. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure PTSD. Loving Jesus doesn't always cure anxiety. But that doesn't mean Jesus doesn't offer us companionship and comfort. He always does that. That night, I guess the companionship and comfort didn't go the distance. That night, Wilson, 30, killed himself according to Harvest Christian Fellowship, where he was an associate pastor. He was vibrant, positive. Where's positive? He was vibrant, positive, and was always serving and helping others. Greg Laurie, the church's founder, wrote in a statement. Jared also repeatedly dealt with depression and was very open about his ongoing struggles. So was he positive or was he depressive? See, we speak a lot of contradictions because we're afraid that when the real life happens to Christ's people, that we have to somehow do damage control for him. He wanted to especially help those who were dealing with suicidal thoughts. Tragically, Jared took his own life. See, he wanted to help, but it wasn't a purpose. It wasn't a driving purpose. Because if it had been a driving purpose, he would have stopped thinking about himself and think about how he could help others with what he's going through and living. Because that's what happens when you want to help others. You push back on everything that wants to infringe or impinge on that purpose. That's purpose-driven. He was not purpose-driven. He was experiential living. He lived his experiences. And they were bigger than his life. They were bigger than his reason for life. Wilson's passing on Monday followed the death of Andrew Stockline, the 30-year-old pastor of Chino Mega Church, Inland Hills Church, who died by suicide last August, a few days after preaching a sermon about his own struggles with mental illness. Both men left behind a wife and young sons. After Stockline's death last year, Wilson tweeted, "So sad to hear about the passing of Pastor Andrew Steck from Inland Hills. My heart goes out to the staff, church, and Andrew's family." A few years earlier, Stockline had tweeted a quote by Wilson, "A true leader is not measured by how many times they succeeded, but failed and decided to get back up again." Well, I think that the answers are coming in their own words. The young pastor's plural death has shaken evangelical Christian leaders, said Ed Stetzer, executive director of the Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College in Illinois, who had spoken many times with Wilson about mental illness advocacy. Many pastors, he said, hide their own mental illness because they feel their congregations won't listen to someone who is struggling. Pastors are supposed to provide help, not need help. And so we go on because we're going to still see it's always blaming the church, blaming the congregation, blaming the doctrine, blaming Christianity. This is a blaming spirit. And it's always looking to discredit Jesus Christ. See, there are so many, these are those kind of psycho-emotional tactics that we don't emphasize as anti-Christ strategies. Because people are going to say, well, if Jesus can't help you, my God, I ain't got nothing. Well, I mean, if somebody like him, mega church, he didn't find help. If the people didn't get it, then I don't have a hope. I'm telling you, this is an anti-Christ strategy to take out God's church, to breed insecurity and to breed doubt and unbelief in God's people so that they feel that if this person failed, it's because God is a failure.
That's right.
You see, a lot of pastors believe that. And they believe that because, first of all, they were in a seat they should have never been in.
Okay.
Because you have to have a particular fortitude. You have to have, because God built every minister with a particular fortitude for the weight that they would be. And pastors are not weight-bearing loads or load-bearing supports or pillars for the kingdom.
That's right.
Now, I'm saying it, but you know what? I've been known to be what I am right now. You know, when you live as long as I have and people have acted the way they've acted, and trust me, I've had many a time for me to sit there and say, you know what, why am I here? I've had it. I've lived it. Like, I'm not they can't say you're the one that life worked for, that things worked for, that worked for. You can't say that. Because that's not how it's been for me. It's been scrapping every day. But when you set your mind on the things that are above and not on the things of the earth, when you set your mind on Jesus Christ instead of your mind on its dysfunctions.
Yes.
See, all of those years and decades of Christian counselors who were pulling their information from secularity, that pulls their information from Eastern religions, is where we got it. Right here. Yoga, and I bet you research this, and I bet you all of that is in this guy's background. I bet you it is. Eastern religions, Eastern thought, Eastern mythology. I'm telling you, because why is that a big deal? Because those nations, religions, are all about death. They're all about death. Suicide. I mean, and I'm talking about at the root, their paganism is about death. Paganism is about getting you out of the planet and out of your body before Jesus Christ can redeem your soul. And if he redeems you, making sure that your soul is not transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's Bible. And see, these people, Bible was optional. Scripture, optional. The Bibles were prompt. Scripture's optional. And the revelation and disclosures of God's Spirit considered irrelevant and antiquated. See, these are kinds of situations that make you wonder if they were not involved in, well, is the church relevant for today? Suicide comes from paganism. I don't care what anybody tells you, that's where it comes from. It comes from pagan religions who tell you about an afterlife, who tell you about Valhalla, who tell you that death is only when you're sleeping, who gives you all of that idiotic philosophy that soothes your emotional moments, but breathes in you the ultimate solution. That is leaving the planet to stop your pain, because you've been told that death is a wonderful thing. It is not. It is not. And the Holy Ghost told me that one day. I was struggling with probably the church that fell, or the building that fell, or being put out and not having a place to go. I mean, I had a real Davidic thing going on there. And so I was doing, and I said, God, I don't even know why he said, Paula, you need to know death is not what you think it is. And that's when he let me know we had pagan and Eastern ways and ideas about death. He said, death is not what you think. The death leaving your body leaves your soul exposed to whatever that realm decides to do. If you're born again and you belong to Jesus Christ, your soul is sealed by your new creation spirit. God comes to get you. Angels come to get you. God's angels. And usually, if you are a serious Christian, God sends Jesus. Jesus comes to get you. Because Jesus comes to get Christians. Why? How do I know that? Stephen's being stoned. Who is he looking at? Jesus. Oh, isn't that interesting? The Lord Jesus will come to get you, and before he comes for you, when you're nearing your death, he prepares you for exiting your body and entering his life. So he prepares you. And you cannot tell me that God prepares you to do his job for him. No, this young man was troubled, and I'm sorry to hear that, but I noticed that a lot of these people commit suicide are the 30-somethings, are young folk. Not all, but far too many of them are young, which means at that age, you've lived all you can tolerate of life.
Jesus.
There's something wrong with that. At 30, you live all that you can tolerate of life. No, he was under pressure that he shouldn't have had. This is a judgment against putting all of these young people in power, all of these youth in weighty positions just because they're talented, and then sucking their talent until they no longer have the capacity to rebound from the stressful situations, the blows that happen. That's what this is, to me, that's what this is about. We'll discuss it when we get Prophet Ma here. But one of the things that I decree and declare the church will, these Christian leaders who have failed their subordinates are going to stop saying it's the church's problem. Everything, this is all satanic. Everything is always the church's problem. It's the church. I'm hurt because of the church. I'm sick because of the church. I'm tired because of the church. I'm divorced because of the church. My kids are unhappy because of the church. Are you kidding me? You must have really misrepresented church for nothing in your life to thrive when God says it's a prosperous institution. You mishandled your position. You did that. And we need to stop this ecclesiastical blame shifting. Blame it on the church. Blame it on the church. Blame it on the sermons. Blame it on the congregations. You took a job saying that you could do it. You took a position saying, I can do this. You said that. Am I right or not?
You're right.
So my question is, pastoral suicide, does God approve or inspire it? So Jesus said, I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Why is he approving and inspiring suicide among his leaders? And we don't ever hear about the people who do it because they're not leaders. They're not noteworthy. Because, you know, if it's at the head, you know it's running down the bottom.
Oh, you know it.
And so this guy, this kid, 30 years old, 30. I'm like, are you kidding? You spent half of that time in school. More than half of that time in school. So you only lived somewhere around 8 to 10 years of life, and you got all of this wisdom, all of this responsibility. No, this isn't the church problem. This is their pastor's problem. Because you shouldn't have been enamored with youth. You should not have put them in a vulnerable position, putting them in a place where they did not have enough knowledge, enough equipment, or enough wisdom to know how to deal with their stress and whatnot. Instead, you let them fall under the stress doctrine that all pastors have. This is not the church, because the church didn't put that kid in leadership.
Good.
The church, that church's leadership did. So y'all need to suck it up and say, you know what? We need to go to the table and revisit some things and rethink some things. Just because somebody is head smart doesn't mean that they are soul wise.
Ah.
And you've been using head smarts to take the place of soul wisdom. So here it is. Now look at us. Suicide is a growing public health crisis and the second leading cause of death for people ages 20 to 34, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In 2017, more than 47,000 people died by suicide, a rate of about 1 every 11 minutes. Now, what is happening with this age group? Hallelujah, Joshua died. And they raised up a generation that did not know the Lord. The elders didn't pass on the truth about God. Let me tell you, when you read Deuteronomy 29, and I read it because I know we love Deuteronomy 28, don't we? We blessed going in and we blessed coming out. Amen. Blessings of mine. But there's a 29 in there. Yeah, I know. A lot of y'all were like, oh, but you know, that's just so hard. Yeah, well, you know what? Fighting for life is hard. I have watched gnats fight for life. I have watched grasshoppers fight to not die. I have watched critters fight to not die. I'm telling you that everything God has fights for life. So don't tell me it's Jesus Christ. I've watched dogs, little puppies, can't even stand up, and they're going to fight till their last breath because some big dog is about to watch the animal things. Those animals fight to the death.
Yes.
They fight to the death, and I mean until they have their last breath. Now, how can the animal kingdom know that God tends to life and humans don't? But see, we've got all of these death angels in the church now. You've got death doctrines, and you've got all of this worldliness and all of this secularity and all of this fleshliness, and Satan has no interest in you living or living well. It does not benefit him that you thrive in God's life. And if he can take out mega churches, if he can take out mega populations, trust me, he's shrinking the church. But this is a satanic attack, and I don't mean satanic because, oh, this guy, he just got taken over by a devil. I'm saying this is a satanic regime. For the thief comes but for to steal, kill, and destroy. The scriptures are still true. And you know why they're true? Because God cannot change, Satan cannot change, humans cannot change. So we got all of this inflexible, changeless players. God not to write the scripture. Depression is going to happen. Until he take out the devil, people are going to be facing this. And so he said, but I've come that you may have life. So what is happening to ages 10 to 34? Culture. Do you know what the age of 10 to 34 culture is? Does anybody want to know?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I do.
Goth. The death culture. The rage. These are the people who grew up under the death culture. And when you research it, they call its lead a funerary spirit.
Sure do.
So these 10 to 34, see, because we're not going to blame the church. We're going to put blame where it is. We're going to assign blame where it belongs. And that is on the leaders that did not better vet these young people and the devil that seduced these leaders into thinking that youth is the way to go. Sucking the life out of them. God says when youth reign over you, it's a sign of his curse.
Yes.
So this whole fascination with youth guarantees that he said, and the reason he said it is because the youth have no wisdom. Elihu says that in Job. 33 and 34. He says, you know, I thought the elders would have wisdom, but y'all don't have it. That is why senator meant senior, not junior. And they'll tell you when they got a junior senator.
They do.
So, what is it? Look at the last one, Dungeons and Dragons, piercings, tattooing, indiscriminate sex, down with religion, down with institutionalized religion. Okay? Look at that. And that's what is happening. Because I would have to say, what is the 10 to 34? That's what it is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that not what we had? You know, your kids didn't have to go to church. They should be open-minded, search out everything. And you treated these souls as if you had nurtured them to be strong and to be discriminate. So you treated them that way. School did, sex education in school, condoms in school, the drug culture. Are you kidding me? And these kids bore the brunt of it. 10 to 34. So when their soul was being developed and nurtured, it was being developed and nurtured to die. So I'm going to talk about mental health for just a moment, God's perspective, and then we're going to listen to Prophet Maud, who will talk about it. Now, this is a good article. It's called "Another Young Pastor's Advocating for Mental Health Dies." So you are getting here playing with these devils of death and doom. You playing with them, considering yourself educating people and helping people that they've already taken over. Wow. So with Dr. Price, is God really dealing with mental health? Yes, he does. He calls it a work of the flesh, evil thoughts, murder. And he says it's literally the product of an impure and corrupt heart. Now, when you look in the scripture, Jesus had more than enough people who were crazy, manic, whatever. He had them. I'm going somewhere with this, and then I'm going to turn it over. So he had more than that, but then he had the madman from Gadara. Actually, there were two men. Only one stayed to thank him. And he said, this guy had many, many devils. He terrified people. God did not say he had a mental issue. He said his mental issues had a source and a cause. And so it said he terrified people. People couldn't get out the boat, didn't want to go by. And I mean, he was happy. And he did that even with the guy that had with the pigs. Jesus has never said mental health or mental illness is an exemption from righteousness, holiness, or godliness. He never said it. It's nowhere in the scripture. Why? Because that mind is in the soul. And if the soul has sinned, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. So if you have not cleansed your soul will continue to putrefy your heart and your thoughts. See, I'm talking about creative technology. I'm not talking about pseudo-scientific explanations of the unexplainable. Now that's what he said. So he said, when you refuse to obey him, he delivers you. This is what this young man happened to him. Isaiah 66:4. He said, I will let your fears come back upon you. Yeah. Is that what it says? Yep. You can look it up in your Bible. He said that. He said, if you don't receive the knowledge of the truth, God will send you strong delusion that you should believe the lie. And it said, the lie killeth, but the truth makes you alive. Can you see it? You want to read it? Okay. I can't see it. You can't see it.
Amen. It says, Isaiah 66:4 says, so will I choose their delusions and bring their fears upon them, because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not hear, but they did evil before my eyes and chose that in which I do not delight.
You're filled with eastern ways. You understand? When God, and a lot of times, this kid just inherited that. Because the leaders are the ones guilty of that. You chose the world. You chose marginalized Christianity. You chose love and lewdness over righteousness and godliness. You disparaged holiness. You altered this man's construct. So I'm sorry, you can say, and I have a whole class on this. So that you understand that if God can let a devil come in and wreck your mind, you need to start serving the mind wrecker, and leave the Almighty alone. Because God said the deceived and the deceiver are mine. He said that. The deceived and the deceiver. He also said that what? He created the waster to destroy. See, all of these are God's powers. And we like to think that a God of love, he's only warm and fuzzy. They only have warm and fuzzy powers. I'm going to turn it over to you because this is your field. And all of these are articles. Look at this. Another young pastor. We got why pastors are committing suicide. We're going to talk about that. I think we need to have a class. Okay, we're going to have a class.
I think it bears understanding that this young man, obviously his mindset was someplace else. I was looking at his Facebook, July 1st, and another Facebook of his little boy making his first day in school. But this is one of his last posts. It says, "My name is Jared Wilson. I'm a husband, father, pastor, and author. I also struggle with depression. I have for most of my life." We'll come back to that. And I'm not telling you that this so that you can feel bad for me, but I'm telling you this so that people know that they're not alone. And that God offers the strength and hope you need to keep going. And he says, we've all got things in life that we struggle with. We're all imperfect. We're all in need of a perfect Savior. You're not alone. It's okay to admit you're not okay. Admitting your struggle is the first step in finding healing. This was July 1st. So in essence, for him, he professed something that really he wasn't experiencing. You know how the Bible tells us, work out our fear with salvation and trembling. Paul talked about not being a castaway. In the midst of his struggle, which we're not making light of.
Not at all.
By any means. The statistics are out there. Often when you see it, it's from Pew Bible, which is from Lifeway. And their research is usually with Reformed or evangelical Christians, so there's a large percentage of us. Have you ever done a Pew research? Have you ever done a survey?
Well,
I haven't. So some of that doesn't reach the mainstream as much as we think. But the reality, they're saying 24% of pastors struggle with mental health issues or consider some form of relief, which often may be suicide for their struggles, and they feel isolated and alone. But yet, as Dr. Price has pointed out, he was 30 years old. I can't even remember 30 now.
I remember 30 was difficult because life on earth is.
Yes. And so in the situation for this young man, I was thinking about it in terms of the way his pastor responded. It sounds like his senior pastor because he was an associate pastor. He said he was vibrant, positive, and always serving and helping others. And I thought of Chief Apostle Price. The way she deals with her leaders. Okay, being one of them, I recognize you can't even have a headache come across you. She don't see you and say, so what's going on? And take you in and assist you in that. So my question would be in terms of even the aid he had around him, in terms of those spiritual leaders that can see, that sit in the office to be able to see in the soul, see what's going on, and administrate what he needed at the time. Yes, it's a powerful thing that he was standing to be an advocate, but it's hard to be an advocate of something you haven't made it very far past. And you notice one of his telltale signs, he said, I struggle with depression, not I've struggled. So in essence, he was made a major advocate with a large mega ministry for something he himself had not made it across and did not have the backing to undergird him. And again, this is no light issue. He died leaving a young wife, 2 small boys, one of which he professed that he's going to change the world. And I ministered to many little kids whose parents took their lives, made it hard for them to change the world as you think, because that leaves a soul tear for them. So in the midst of this, we're talking about even the fact that pastors are overseeing large congregations where you don't have the weight and the backing to even look into the souls of the people that you're dealing with, and let alone deal with what we talked about, the warfare, the endurance. Dr. Price pointed out how David, you go in the book of Psalms, I'm always having clients stay in the book of Psalms because you get a chance to see how David went through the terrain of the hardness, of the cruelty, some things we'll never experience. And yet in that, his return is back to the word, back to the source, back to the maker. And we say this, not to say the statistics are off. They are out there because America is becoming more emotional. And we're looking for things, more pagan. So we're doing things to help with the emotionalism, the mental health. 1 in every 3, 1 in every 4 Americans are quote unquote have some mental health difficulties. That's a statistic out there. So if it's in America, then that means it enters into the church. And then we put parameters around what we're going to do with it. And we're saying that pastors won't come because they don't have the capacity to come because we think they're perfect. There's a way, the spiritual warfare, expectations, and things that are needed of them. But we're also not looking at how we've looked away from the cure.
Yes.
For us as Christians. Now, I'm not going to tell a Buddha or someone who practices Middle Eastern religion that Christ is their answer. They've already made their decision. But within the church, there are things that we are to begin to consider that we've allowed Middle Eastern things to take away from us that is part of the cure. So for this young man, Dr. Price, you and I have talked about, it could have been something chemical.
Yeah.
And so he could have needed some medication in the midst. And also the undergirding of others coming along to also steward him and see his soul and work on the soul and not how I feel, the experiences I'm having day to day. So what we're looking at is we're living in a society that's telling us this is what's going on and this is what we're to buy into. And as Dr. Price says that when you turn around, you hear a pastor has taken his life. One took his life last year, about the same age, in August. And now we're saying that, well, what's the use? There's no answer in the church. But guess what? Yoga, mindfulness, meditation tells you, come on out, we got an answer for you.
That's
We can make it work.
You know, it's a lie.
Yet it's increasing. So we're putting ourselves, we're blocking our hands. We're not releasing things in places in the church where we can deal with that. There is counseling, but we deal with the soul. We deal with the heart issues. Inside of this book, Dr. Price is right. I do love it. Okay, I think every line is marked. Yeah, you can see. In this area here, it talks about the broken heart damages the soul. People's emotional suffering starts in their heart, from which the Lord says comes the issues of life. We continue to try to deal with the brain and the mind, but bypass what's going on at the start of the heart. What are the core issues? Before we put someone in leadership and applaud what they can appear in their charisma to do for you without going into what's going in the heart, what's going in the soul. What happened to him as a little boy, 30 years old? This was going on a long time. If he says he's been struggling with it a very long time. We have teenagers now taking their lives, cutting because of emotional pain, which we know comes from the heart. These are the things we're not touching. These are the things we're not bringing forth because we're out of the word and we're professing. If you just kind of stay in that dark room with the worship, Jesus is just going to come love you as you are. And part of it is there is not an entry of the word along with the things that are out there. The maintenance, the diet, looking at what's happening with your neurotransmitters. And what are you buying and feeding into? Most often we don't even realize in the midst of what we're taking in from television, from the media, those things are polluting that vessel as well. It is a disease, but it's a disease that's coming into the mind, entering into the soul, and really separating the idea that the maker of the soul can bring some solution.
Well, talk about thorough. That is amazing. And it's amazing for us to realize it, that God says it is a bitter thing for a nation to change its gods. And I'm telling you, I don't care how much we keep Christ's name on the door, his cross is in light, I'm telling you that the church, by and large, has changed its God to that will not profit, and to that will shame them. Now that's Bible. That's how God feels about it. And you think that, well, but a loving God, God is more than a loving God. As a matter of fact, if you knew God was loving, why didn't you trust him? This kid left his wife and his children. These kids have to grow up with that stigma all their days. And I know, because I had a fight with a prophet in town. That man put my name out as evil because he kept saying, yeah, but I just think that God is going to forgive us. How is he going to forgive you? Because suicide means you can't repent. And he said, without repentance, there's no remission of sin. So Buddha tells you that there's a glorious afterlife. Maybe, Allah, I don't know. Brahma tells you. Hinduism tells you that there's an afterlife. But these are the same gods that Jesus dethroned on the cross. So obviously they're not right. So I need you to understand that I don't care what anybody tells you. The Bible says that God himself holds complete sway over his people. So my question is, and I've asked this a dozen times to people, my question is, why didn't God stop him? If he was going to save him, why did he stop him? Why did he stop these people? Something in their theology, something in their doctrine, something in their philosophy, something in their beliefs and values told them to take their lives, and it didn't keep them. Because we know people attempting suicide, God got doors open, swinging open, phones ringing and carrying on. Why didn't God do it? Because he attempted it way too many times, and God said, I'm tired. Now see, part of why these leaders can't help is because they're trying to be secular.
That's it.
They're trying to be secular and humanly analytical, diagnostic. Us? No. I tell my people walk in, one of these people here in the audience, you look bad. What's going on with you? Don't let me get in your face. I will tell you what you look like down the street, driving your car.
She's gonna tell you need your B12.
Yes, I am.
Multivitamins.
Yes,
I am. And then tell you I'm going to slap your devils off. And I let Satan know, you cannot have my sheep, you cannot have my shepherds, and you cannot have my flock. I don't play with it. He comes to me at night. I never forget, a couple of years ago, it was a real attack. Aren't you tired? Why do you want to be here? You know what I said? That's your problem. You dead. I ain't dying for you.
Look. Yeah. That's a lot to think about. Even going back to what you said before about this being an antichrist spirit. The church is to blame, God is to blame, and the contradictions, when you went through all the contradictions of it's this or it's that. Well, it's this or it's that. And we really have been soft doctrinally bullied into blaming God. It's just, and something as simple, well, not simple, well, yeah, simple, as saying, oh, no, you tried this a lot of times. And you know what? When we remove this out of the element of, we don't want to say anything about the minister, and just talk about it as a person, that's what somebody would say. How many times have you attempted suicide before getting here? When somebody overdoses, this is the OD that killed you. But how many times have you been rushed to the hospital, and somebody walk in and find you on the floor, do all these things that nobody else talks about? And I'm glad that you're tackling this as only you can, the way you can, because we as Christians have got to, one, think.
Instead of always feeling.
He
killed himself because he was a masterful feeler and not a thinker.
Absolutely. If you've come to the place where you are selfish enough, because we don't want to talk about suicide being selfish, to take yourself out and leave all of this fallout, all of these people, all of this scandal, and then say, life is better without me. What kind of self-centered reasoning is that, where that's the conclusion that you come to? So this is it's a complex but not really issue, because it's complex because we've said, nobody really knows, but you're running down off the top of your head. Probably that was at the same head that was writing those pages this morning. It's right there, man. Ding, right there. All the scriptures that talk about that, I appreciate how you said, but the Word of God does not talk about mental health being an excuse.
It never does. Never does.
Crazy, Jesus, he hit every kind of devil showing up every kind of way in flesh to let us know there is no deformity, no consequence of sin, nothing that is beyond my reach. And we really do teach and preach and talk about suicide like that's the one thing. Besides maybe cancer or something like that, but even then, we might level that off to be God's choice. And the mature saint will say that. But this issue is the one thing that, just slipped through Jesus' hands.
He couldn't stop it.
He couldn't do it. He just, it was in his heart, and I struggle and I pray, and we don't want to say, no, there are people who want to die.
Yeah. Don't we know? We met them.
There are people who want it.
And
And
nothing you can do to can talk them into living.
we have had people terminally ill, and we've seen both. The ones who are like, it's not my day to die, I'm not going out. And I tell you what, the power of God, we've read the testimonies, been diagnosed stage 4, this metastasized into this, that, and they're back. Total healing. The doctors don't even know what happened. And we've seen the ones where I just don't want to fight.
Mm-hmm. And these are people who usually spent their whole lives not fighting. You know, when I think of what you said about him in July, this kid wanted to feel bad. People, here's where I think mental health needs to go, and that is deal with people's addiction to feeling bad.
Yeah.
There are people who just love that melancholy, that sad song, make me feel bad. They love that. People love it. They love that feeling. And then the trickery that they have, how they deceive people into thinking that they are defeating it and they're ruling over it. But God says, sin lies at your door, and you must rule over it. Everybody has a moment when you don't know why you're here, and because of the spirit of death in this world, and now you brought it out, the spirit of death that is dominating media.
Yes.
You've got death movies, we got evil, we got exorcists, we got zombie. Everything is death, because this is a death culture, and you reared your children up in this culture so that they have an appetite for death, because suicide is also an appetite for death.
Dr. Price, I was in a bookstore the other night and walked in, and since we're rolling into October, of course, Halloween is whatever.
It's a death, isn't it a death holiday?
It is now, for sure.
For sure.
And trying to make it into a death season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked in, and every book thing and special table down the entire middle, all the way to the back of the store, was about devils, demons, witches, incantations, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such an anointing on those works. And we really don't talk about the anointing that is on those that pulls you to pick them up.
Mm-hmm. And see what's in them.
To look through them, to see through them. I'm an apostle, and that devil talked to me. Well, you're an apostle, and you should know about this, and you should do whatever. I'm like, not today.
Mm-mm.
And it's so refined, and so sophisticated, and so in your face. From the little children's coloring books,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to the scholastic books, and recipe books, and decorating books, and every genre.
Because you allowed them to usurp and upstage your Jesus and his day. Because Halloween is supposed to be Satan's birthday. Now how we know, I have no idea. I'm going to tell you, at least we know Jesus had a birthday. How did he get one? I'm still trying to figure that out.
I was trying to be like Jesus.
The statement I'd like to make is because it's being looked at as another disease. And if we were sitting here talking about someone dying out of, say, for instance, long-term chronic lung disease, we would look at the aspects of how their treatment went. Most people who are doing that are in medications for a long period of time, some type of treatment, some type of rehab for that. And even when we're dealing with substance abuse, if we sat here and talked about someone dying from that, we have a different mind about it. We think more broadly about it instead of suicide. When we go into suicide within the church, we'll just go, oh, okay. I feel so bad that we can't touch the aspects of let's investigate what took place. What was going on with his life? Were all the parameters put in place that could have been put in place like we do for chronic illnesses? Are we dealing with the fact that we put a young man to be in leadership to do something that he's not getting treated or hasn't been treated for? That it can still be a struggle. Yeah. And he gets to be an advocate for it. Yes, he's being an advocate for something he's walking through, but not to be a lead voice in that. So that when something happens to him, now it becomes a public front. And we don't have an answer to that, but we would have an answer to some kind of chronic illness. Again, we're not making light of it because the reality of those attacks are what they are. I still go back to the piece that Dr. Price talked about. There is a weight underneath the first two officers that come with a pushback on those spirits when they enter in. Because they come after people in specific ways. But we're saying we misplaced this young man in the wrong place and then gave him a shield, an advocacy in an area now. It's looking like a mockery to the ways of Christ and to the church.
But that's why it's
sorry about it.
Yeah.
See, that's why I call it, this is the same tactic that we talked about a few weeks ago about now a lot of these high leaders, I'm no longer going to be a prophet, I'm no longer going to be an apostle, I'm not using those titles, I'm just abandoning them, and I renounce them. And you know what? It's all of this is a subtle, and I'm telling you, it is a subtle fine. It's so fine, it's like a filament, but it is a subtle discredit of the church and discredit of Jesus Christ. Well, if so-and-so is not going to be a prophet anymore, then I guess it's invalid. Are you kidding? The prophetic is an eternal institution, and fallouts are invalid. That's what we need to call. See, one of the things, I don't even apologize about all of that. I feel sorry for this young man, but I'm not gonna let myself get caught up with those of you who want to defend his actions with compassion. My job is to keep you. My Bible said, keep that which has been entrusted to you. So I'm your keeper. And I'm telling you that this is a tactic of Satan to discredit God's church and to wipe it out. And by getting all of the members sick, soul sick, physically sick, mentally sick. In other words, to debilitate this body to the point that it ceases to be effective in the world, because Satan wants to take back the world from Jesus Christ. So let me be an apostle, and let me tell you how this is going to go. So I don't care about a devil. I don't care about how he does it. I'm going to tell everybody every time I can, but he's a failure. That's why people who follow him fail, because he's a failure. He failed in heaven. He failed on earth. He failed in hell. He failed at the resurrection. He failed at Pentecost. He's a failure. And you all need to stop buying into this nonsense that somehow or another there is something redeemable about him. He has nothing redeemable at all. That's number one. Number two, I stand on the word of my Savior. The gates of hell will not prevail against the church of Jesus Christ. I don't care about the witches, and I don't care about your warlocks, and I don't care about your little paraphernalia, because I'm telling you, greater is he that's in me than he that is in the world. And let me tell you something. The church of Jesus Christ has been here before. Let us not forget the medieval season. And you know what? We came from medieval to Protestant. And before you know it, we took back the planet. And I'm serving notice on you today. We did it once. Jesus did it once. He will do it again. We will take back this planet. I promise you, darkness will be driven underground. I don't care if God has to collapse the planet to do it. I promise you, that is what will be. God bless you. You want to bless me? Go to Cash App, go to PayPal, go to something. But you better know, I reached out to bless your life.
Yeah.
And you need to sow a seed. I promise you, darkness will never ever destroy the light. If we don't, we need to remember that when God came to the planet, it was let there be light, not let there be darkness.
Dr. Price, you have a couple of teachings that you want to grab a hold of. Soul Stalkers, Time to be Healed, the 3D, Soul Restoration, When God Goes Silent. If you're dealing with any of these things in your life, the depression, mental issues, the suicidal thoughts and ideations, grab a hold of some of these teachings, the comeback plan for some of you leaders. Grab a hold of teachings outside of your circle that's going to cause your soul to rise up and fight for its right.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Hey, we've come to the end. God bless you. Share, share, share. And then after that, share again. And then I'm going to ask you, share and sow, sow and share. Share and sow and share. I'm going to see you on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. We begin at the Congregation of the Mighty where God stands. I'm just saying. 8 a.m. Sunday school, 11 a.m., 10 a.m. Sunday service. Hey, join us. Share this with your friends. And also, let me just tell you, our Success Center has people that you can talk to. Prophet Maud is a licensed practical counselor. She's credentialed. She's experienced. She's been at this a long time. So you can let us know. Dr. Price, I really want to talk about it. If you're struggling with suicide, if you're struggling with thoughts of depression, because that's a whole other thing. But if you're struggling with that, then go to my website, drpaulaprice.com, and say, I want Prophet Maud to schedule me for some sort of counsel or advice. We have a program. We don't just talk you out. We talk, we walk, we guide, we prescribe. Because it's a complex situation that deserves complex answers and remedies. God bless you. I love you very much. Have a great weekend.